Hey guys, so I've been thinking a lot about aesthetics. And I started thinking about this because I was thinking about how I don't have one. At least not on the internet. And so other people have done videos on this too, and I've only really seen the one from Leonie, the book Leo, talking about the aesthetication of reading and how TikTok kind of created this. Reading is now an aesthetic. When you say that you're a reader, there is a mental image that people have, and I feel like TikTok and BookTube, BookTube and BookTok have really been leaning into this sense of aesthetic. And one thing I'm going to continue talking about is that this is not just a BookTube and BookTok thing. This is an internet thing. This is everybody on the internet at this point. Basically all different sects of the internet. And what I want to talk about today, because this is something I've been thinking a lot about, is this good or not? Because I kind of have mixed feelings on it. So I want to kind of just talk about some different things that kind of come with this territory and just kind of discuss and, I don't know, see what everybody else thinks. So, at first, there's really not much wrong with an aesthetification of reading as an activity or even writing or anything like that. First of all, we have to just think about, okay, well, why is it like this? Well, algorithms are why it's like this. Thumbnails, we click on them when we see pretty things, when we see pretty people, when we see pretty books, when we see a pretty space. We tend to stay subscribed to the people that, have an aesthetic that they like, or at least a lot of people do. I really don't care, but that's just kind of a common thing. And I think that it's just, we as humans like to look at nice looking things. And I think that everyone is like this to some extent. So even me, I don't consider myself having an aesthetic, but there's a reason why this is the view that you're seeing and not the rest of my hot mess office right now. Okay. So I picked a clean spot, and I picked a spot where you can tell that I'm going to talk about books because there's books behind me. Well, in my old school Evanescence fan club letter, because that's just me. But still, you can tell what this is all about. So aesthetics kind of serve a dual purpose. Not only pretty, but also, your thumbnail might be able to say this is a reading wrap up or this is a discussion. But you do your visuals in your thumbnail and in your video, go with that. A lot of people take this not just, what's your background, what's your thumbnail, people probably do this with appearances as well. There's a reason why I frequently film with makeup on, even though I don't always like to do that. And if I don't, I tend to wear colors that complement my skin tone. Just because I think we want to look our best. We want our space to be presented in its best possible form. And again, I don't think that this is a bad thing. I don't think it's bad that people are leaning into an aesthetic or making sure that the content is aesthetically appealing to get views, because nowadays there's so much stuff that's out there that we are all fighting against in the algorithm. And kind of like what the book Leo talks about in her video, I'm gonna link it. There are so many things. Actually, I think this is from a different video of hers, but there's just so many different things that are competing for our attention. And there's never been this many things competing for our attention in human history. And when there's 8 billion little video thumbnails out there on books, look at me, look at me, look at me, we have to pick at some point, and an aesthetic can clue us into what that person reads or what their vibe is like, and that kind of helps us be able to judge right away and click on what we want. So it's just kind of a reality of the internet at this point in the oversaturation. So it's not really a bad thing. We just have a lot of content now, and it's just kind of the fact of being on the internet. So then a question that we could kind of ask ourselves, that I've kind of asked myself as well, because I've heard kind of people, even outside of the bookish space, talk about this, but is it really so bad to feel pretty while you do something? We have so many things competing for our attention to the point that it's so easy to just be paralyzed and scroll, right? If we take advantage of little rewards for doing the things that matter the most to us, that could be a good thing. So posting what you read recently on Instagram with the prettiest display possible, or Because, I mean, okay, cool. I didn't doom scroll. I read this book. Now I'm going to do this cute little thing where I post about it and it's very pretty and I feel very pretty and it's great. Or like, if you're going in the lifestyle route, because it's not just BookTok and BookTube, this is everybody. This is actually where I see the criticism where people are like, well, why do you always have to post a gym selfie? Or like, to some of my friends that do that. And then like, why do you always have to post your workout stats? Well, again, it's because they can, and because that can also be help motivating. The same thing goes with like finishing your, crazy cool home improvement project or cooking a super delicious healthy meal. Like all of those things you didn't have to spend the time and effort to do, but you did. And I feel like when we do these things, it can feel extra rewarding when we kind of focus on it as being an aesthetic thing, or if it feels very main character, if that makes sense. Because doing that also helps us, even after we did the task that we chose to do, it helps kind of reaffirm and remind ourselves, hey, I did this cool thing. It helps kind of boost our positive feeling towards it, I feel. And like, if you are in a community of readers where we're like all, taking cute pictures of what we read, or we're posting videos about what we read and it's all very aesthetic and whatever, like, it's just kind of another motivator. Like, yes, we're promoting this particular behavior by glorifying reading a book, making a wonderful meal, doing that home improvement project that you've always wanted to do, going to the gym and stuff like that. By promoting that, it serves as like almost an incentive of sorts, or it's like an extra little fun bonus thing. So instead of doom scrolling, I did this. I had so many different things competing for my attention, but I picked this one thing. It kind of like, if we kind of make it an aesthetic, it gives us just a little bit more motivation to do those types of things rather than, the paralyzing doom scrolling. If we feel very aesthetic and main character about these things, we're probably going to be a little bit more likely to do it. Does that sound kind of ridiculous? Yeah, but when you have that many things competing for your attention, if feeling very main character, if feeling very aesthetic, if feeling very like, ooh, this was, this was really cool, and I'm gonna talk about it and show about it in this really beautiful way. If that's what motivates you, or if that's something that helps someone stay into that hobby or that project that they care about, I really don't see what the harm is. So like, it is what it is. And another thing I was considering when I was thinking about a lot of the criticisms towards, making things an aesthetic, are there misogynistic undertones with this? I feel like women specifically looking cute while we enjoy things is always going to be looked at as superficial. And so I feel like I see this criticism quite a bit, like, oh, she probably doesn't really read. She just likes looking like she reads. Well, you know what? Maybe she likes both. Maybe she likes being a reader and she likes looking like one, whatever that even means. But we all have that picture in our head, right? That kind of Rory Gilmore aesthetic, I guess. Any little thing that we can cling to, or that kind of gives us an extra boost of positive energy, after we do the things that we like, I think is worth it. However, this is where I start to understand the criticism, right? So on the one hand, we have algorithms. And then on the other hand, we have, okay, but is it really such a crime to like to feel pretty while we do things? And like, it's not, and that's okay. But this is where I feel like I start to also be kind of critical or get kind of fed up with I'm not even really talking that much about BookTube and BookTok aesthetics. It's just the aesthetification of the entire world. These are the parts that I'm going to talk about that do kind of get under my skin just a little bit. I'm literally going to read off some of my notes for here because I'm a little incoherent right now compared to when I wrote this. So I'm going to just take a look. So here's the thing. Too much staging in a video, in like unnatural elements, like even speech patterns, like speaking in this kind of lofty way that no normal person would really speak in, can make someone just feel phony. Where now it's like, okay, is it aesthetic? Is it cute? Or are we just trying to put on this whole persona that we don't even have? Ultimately, I think that this is frustrating because it shouldn't be frustrating. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you know what? They want to feel so aesthetic while they do this that they want to have an online persona. But the thing is, I feel like in the world of Instagram filters and just frankly, a lot of subtle cosmetic surgeries on like every celebrity ever. I just feel like so many of us are desperate for something that feels real or something that looks real. I think the overconsumption kind of falls into this category too, not like in the bookish world and beyond. You know, when you see these people with like 600 and 1,000 books in their house, for many of us that feels like such an unreality. Is it that person's fault? No. It's just kind of the truth. I feel like sometimes aesthetics makes people very unrelatable in that sense. And and I get it, like an extremely well-crafted online presence, persona, or aesthetic could be considered an art form in itself. And like, I get that. And we see this with like musical artists too. Like, for example, the band Ghost comes to mind. And I think that it makes sense that I get frustrated with content creators that just have too much of a persona, because I tend to not like bands like Ghost, and I don't listen to a lot of Slipknot, because I just find that bands and artists that have a more extreme aesthetic tend to be far less interesting musically. Just because your aesthetic is interesting doesn't mean that your content is interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need interesting content. I really don't care about aesthetics. I care about the content. I really didn't think that this type of thing bothered me, because I used to be like, I totally agreed with Lainey. I was like, you know what? There's undertones of misogyny in some of this criticism. You know, who cares if we enjoy the aesthetic of what we're doing and we use that to help celebrate what we're doing and motivate our reading habits and things like that. I do think for me though, it kind of depends on the personality that accompanies the aesthetic. For example, if you have that dark academia aesthetic in your BookTube channel or whatever, and your personality comes off as really conceited, and it feels very fake, then I'm not gonna like the content. Like, that's just it. But like, obviously, it really depends, because like, Jordaline always has that super structured, dark academic aesthetic, and really so does Lainey. And there's some of my favorite creators. Jordaline is freaking hilarious, okay? Like, that girl makes me laugh so much. Remember the first times I watched her, I was like, what is this like pep talk she's giving me at the start of it, and why is she calling me Tiffany? But now I really could use her pep talk sometimes. I love her videos. So like, she, even though her aesthetic is very much an aesthetic, she feels like a very real person to me. I don't feel like, and like, I don't know, you could argue that she has somewhat of a persona too. I mean, she calls her audience Tiffany. And, you know, she does have that kind of suave way of speaking sometimes. But it doesn't feel, to me, it feels like it comes from a place of genuineness. Like, she's just genuinely funny. You know what I'm saying? She's not trying to look down upon the peasants who watch her. She's not trying to come off as being like way smarter than anybody is. You know, she's just, I feel like she's just her, and I think she's just funny. That's just what I think. So it just definitely depends. And I think that when someone has a strong personality by itself, they make it stand on their own, aesthetic or not. One of the main reasons why I started thinking about this deeply, I mean, first of all, I was trying to think about my own aesthetic on the internet. Like I said before, I think, or did I talk about that before? I'm losing my mind. I don't know what I talked about. So I was trying to think about stuff like that. But then also, it wasn't a particular creator that made me think about this. It was a bunch of people on a Reddit who were talking about a particular booktuber. People on there were saying that they think that that this creator is incredibly pretentious, but they always stay subscribed because they love the aesthetic. Like, listen, I understand the need for some level of aesthetic, or, for the algorithm, for views and things like this. I mean, there's a reason why I've got my bookshelf back here and not the rest of my office. There's a reason why, like, I put myself together today and I'm not like just filming in my pajamas, even though that shouldn't really matter, right? Okay, a lot of my favorite YouTubers have filmed in their freaking pajamas. But the thing is, I just think it would be a horrible thing to make content driven by your reading tastes that's full of your opinions that's full of you. And people are only watching you basically because of what you and your setup looks like. Like, am I the only person that thinks that that's bonkers as heck? I would feel so bad if someone said that about me. Like, I don't know. I just think that that's wild. I think that this might be a situation. I mean, it was Reddit. Maybe only certain select viewers have, like, lost the plot here. And I understand gravitation towards beauty and aesthetics is such an essential human thing. It's just part of us. But I think that we should all be self-aware enough to recognize when we're getting a bit shallow about it. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with the aesthetification of reading or booktube or BookTok. Especially in the context of our super chaotic world where there's so much going on and it's so easy to just sit and doom scroll all night. But if you don't if you're only watching someone's content because of either what they look like or because of their aesthetic, I think that that's really weird. Like, I think that's really weird. That's not weird if you're watching art videos. Then that's not weird because the aesthetic is kind of the entire thing. But like, if you were watching someone that is sharing their opinions, they're a creator where it's an opinion-based channel or something like that, I think that that's really strange. I'm not gonna lie. So, now what do we do with this? I think that the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't think that we should hate on the general focus on aesthetics across the internet. I don't think we should hate on the girl that posts her gym selfies every week. I don't think that we should hate on, the BookTok people that have that perfect dark academia setting. I do think, though, that we need to get a little bit of a grip if it gets to the point that that's what we care about the most, is watching someone for their aesthetic. You know what I'm saying? I feel like at that point, we need to watch aesthetic-based content rather than support creators that are putting out intellectual things only for their content. I also think that as creators, people out there should probably, I don't know, I'm just not a fan of the persona. I just want something real, I think that a lot of us do. But what do I know? No one watches this channel anyway. And one thing I have decided for myself, in case you're wondering what my aesthetic is that I don't have one. And that's such a deliberate decision. And it wasn't even as a result of thinking through this video and the content. It's just, I tried to think about, okay, my content's not that unique because it's about reading and writing, which is like a billion people out there. So what do I have that's different? And when I hear people describe me or my students describe me and stuff like that, they always say that I'm so real. And I think I'm going to lean into that. I think I'm going to lean into real. Yeah, I'm still going to clean my house before I film a little bit, or at least, a corner, or keep the bookshelves okay, right? I'm not going to, nobody's 100% aesthetic free. You know what I mean? But I decided I'm not going to worry about it. And the biggest selling point of this channel, I want to be just me, just being me, and being super raw and in your face, because that's how I am. And some people don't like that. That's okay. And they would rather watch someone with a, a better, more organized aesthetic. And maybe they don't like that I film my reading vlogs 90% of the time in my pajamas and in my red Calvin Klein robe that I got at Marshall's that I probably haven't washed in 3 months. Maybe I should wash that today. But that's okay. So yeah, I'm really losing sight as to why I filmed this. Basically, I get why people get irritated about everything being aesthetified. I don't think it's wholly bad, but I think it makes sense that we get a little tired when people feel like they're not genuine. Anyway, this was a cute little chat. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If not, oh well. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment with what you think. And normal bookish content and writing content shall resume after this upload. Can you believe that I'm uploading more now that my master's degree is here? Oh my god, it's crazy. Anyway, bye.